Hello, everyone. A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining from. I'm Siddharth. I'm with the Manage Engine ServiceDesk Plus team, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. So, this is the final and 10th episode of the ServiceDesk Plus Masterclass series. We have a bunch of product updates that we will be discussing with you. I have Swati, a product expert from the ServiceDesk Plus product support team, here with me, and she will be covering some of the newer enhancements. After that, we have the AMA segment with Vishnu Priya Kumaresh, who is our global head of customer success and product support. She'll be answering some of your questions live, as well as some of the questions that you've shared with us over our Pit Stop forum posts. So, with that, I'll go over the agenda for today. So, these are some of the newer enhancements in Service Desk Plus. We have custom widgets and connections to bring in third-party applications into Service Desk Plus. We've integrated Service Desk Plus with our privileged access management solution, that is PAM 360. You would also learn how you can self-configure a backup approver, set up dynamic templates for custom modules, and finally, you get all your questions answered in our AMA session. So without any further ado, let me hand it over to Swati.
Hi everyone, this is Swati from Manage Engine Services Plus, today with you to host the final episode of our masterclass. And now let's dig into the topic one by one and get them discussed in detail. So the first feature that we are going to discuss today is the custom widgets and connections. So using the custom widgets and connections, you can now integrate any of your third-party application and bring them into the Services Plus UI. To understand this better, let me explain you within real-time use case. When the technicians are working on the tickets that they are assigned with in the help desk, there will often be a situation where the technician should jump over a meeting with the requesters for the troubleshooting purpose or to collect all the necessary information. During this situation, technician logins to our meeting application, generates the link manually and sends it out to the requester. For an example, let's assume you are using a Zoom as a meeting application in your organization. But what if I tell you using custom widgets and connections, we can now integrate Zoom and Services Plus and get the Zoom icon into the Services Plus UI. By doing this, within a single click, the link will be automatically generated and will be sent to the requesters automatically. Now, to start with, we first need to build the connection between ServiceDesk Plus and the Zoom. Let's now navigate to the application and check how we can connect it. Once you log into the application, please head to admin icon, and under the developer space, you have connections. Here, by creating new connections and entering the details of your third-party application, the connection can be established. Once if you create the connection, you will be provided with the JSON file which will be containing the details and the scope of your third-party application. This JSON file can be used when you're going to add a custom widget. Once after the connection is created, now it's the time to create the custom widget. To create the custom widget, please head to admin. Under the developer space, you have custom widget. Here, you can click on new, and by just adding the zip file, which consists of the manifest and the JSON file, you can create the custom widget. Once after creating the custom widget, you do have an option configuration where you can add the location, that is to specify in which particular tab you need this external application to be populated in ServiceDesk Plus. As you see here, I have request details right panel, details tab, dashboard and web tab. We also have asset, release, change, and additionally the custom modules tab where you can enhance by bringing your third-party application into ServiceDesk Plus. Now let's open a request and check how we can now see the third-party application within the application. Now, when I click on the request details tab, here I have an additional tab with the third party application, which is the custom widget. And also in the right panel, I do see an icon. When I click on start meeting, the Services Plus itself will generate a meeting invite and send it to the requesters automatically. Using this invite, the requesters can join session and me being a technician can end the session, look for the active sessions and the session history within my Services Plus console. I don't have to go to the Zoom and Services Plus back and forth. Hence, every actions can be done by me within the Services Plus console. This is how custom widgets and connections can enhance your application's behavior by building the connections between your third party application and Services Plus. Now, let's move to the next topic, which is PAM 360 integrations. PAM 360 is another product of Manage Engine. So, this is a privileged access management. So, both PAM 360 and Services Plus provides the different aspects of IT management. When they are integrated together, they provide a seamless ecosystem that enhances security and saves time. PAM 360 offers a platform where you can centrally manage your endpoint with their credentials and also for the remote access by preventing the unauthorized access to your critical endpoints. Let's now log into PAM 360 and check how the endpoints are managed there. So once I log into PAM 360 as an admin, under the resources, I will be having all the resources listed. So here, the technicians can take the control of the endpoints within the PAM 360 console. Now, what if I tell you we can also take the remote of this endpoints from the Services Plus console itself? So to make this happen, we need to integrate PAM 360 with Services Plus. This is a very quick and the easy integration. Here, under the admin icon, please navigate to integrations and under the setting, by just entering the host URL of your PAM 360 port and generating the auth token from PAM 360, the integrations will be established. Now, if the technician wants to remote into any of the critical devices to get the critical issues solved quickly, they can take the remote from the Services Plus itself. When I go to the request details page, under the custom actions, I do have a button PAM 360 resources. When I click on it, the endpoints that I manage in my PAM 360 will be listed here. If I want to remote into any of the devices, just by clicking on the remote desktop and establishing the RDP connection and entering the reason why I need to connect to this server or the endpoint, the session will be started. The main feature of PAM 360 is that whenever the technician remote into any of the endpoint, it will automatically start to record the session. This will be present under the audit logs of PAM 360, and this can be used to verify or to have the record on what changes and what are the steps that has been performed to your critical assets. Now, if the technician who is accessing the control of the machine is an admin in PAM 360, they can directly remote into it. But what if you have a technician who doesn't have an admin privileges in PAM 360? Here comes the another enhancement that we have in PAM 360 where the normal technician logs into Services Plus, and when they are trying to remote into the resources, they will be provided with the option request. So now they want to request for the access. Once requested, the automation notification will be sent to the PAM 360 admin. So upon their approval, the technicians can remote in. When a normal user logged into this PAM 360, they have an option request. So while requesting, they will also mention for how much duration they are going to remote into it. So once after that duration is completed, the session will be automatically terminated and the password will be reset. Now, if the technician wants to remote in again, they should again send in request access to remote in so that the admin will again be notified. By this, we can ensure that there is no unauthorized access to any of your endpoints. This is how the integration between the PAM 360 and Services Plus will be a game changer when your organization is dealing with the critical endpoints. Now let's move to the next topic, which is configuring the backup approver. Now in the Services Plus, we have brought an option where the users themselves can configure the backup approver. Backup approver in Services Plus enhances your approval process by ensuring that there is a continuity in your request management and change management. So, what in case if a primary approver is unavailable due to the annual leaves or due to the travel? At this time, we often come to a situation where the critical changes or critical service requests are being delayed and missed deadlines, and leading to the service disturbs. During this time, we can configure a backup approver and ensure that during the unavailability of the primary approver, it will be routed to the necessary or available approvers who can take further actions. Now let's log into the application and check how we can configure backup approver. Once I log into the application, please head to the Home tab. Here, under the backup approver, we have an option to add configure backup approvers by choosing which approver is going to be unavailable and also who is going to act as an alternative approver for them, and entering the number of days that they are going to be unavailable, the backup approval can be configured. Once it is configured, all the approvers which is sent to Sundar will be directly routed to the backup approver Yashika. As Yashika is present in the work, she can take further actions or necessary actions to ensure that there is no delay in your approval process. Also, to enhance the backup approval feature, we do have some default notifications. To ensure that it is enabled, please navigate to Admin, Notification Rules. Under the Approval tab, we have three approval notification with regards to the backup approval, which is when they are configured, cancelled, and when an action is taken. You can also make use of the customized template option to add the necessary variables and necessary details so that your notification can be customized as per your requirement. To ensure that you are providing the permissions for your end users to configure the backup approver by themselves during their unavailability, please navigate to Admin, Advanced Portal Settings. Under the Approval tab, we have an option Allow users to configure their backup approver. If this option is set to yes, then the users don't want to depend upon the admin each time when they're unavailable. Instead, they can go ahead and configure backup approver by themselves. This is how configuring the backup approver in ServiceDesk Plus ensures that there is no delay in your approval process. Now, let's go to the next topic, which is custom modules. As you all know, ServiceDesk Plus has the capability to build your own standalone modules, like how we have request module and change module as per your requirement. Here, if you want to record any of the process or if you want to operate any of the function that is happening in your organization within the ServiceDesk Plus, then comes custom module into picture. Using custom module, I can build my own custom module using the requirements as per my requirements. For an example, here in my organization, we do provide trainings for the new joiners, and this training is been provided by the third-party vendor. Using the default modules which is available in ServiceDesk Plus, I cannot operate this function. So I have decided to build a custom module to maintain and operate the trainings that is happening in my organization. Now, let's quickly go to the application and check how we can get the custom module configured. Please head to Admin. So under the developer space, we have custom modules. So to create new custom module, click on new, and here you can just enter the name of your custom module, and in type we have 4. So when you choose the web tab, this is the main module that is going to be acted, and when you create a custom module using the web tab, this will be populated on the headers beside all other modules. We have subform. Using subform, we can group a set of additional fields to make a form, and this form can be allocated with multiple custom modules. That is, what if you want the same fields to be they present in multiple custom module? Here comes the subform into picture. You can just group them all together and maintain it as a form, and this form can be associated with multiple custom modules. We have sub entity, where you can build your individual entity and associate it with the custom module. So like how we have work log task under the request details page, by creating a sub entity and associating it to the custom module, this entity will be populated under the custom modules entry. We have configurations where you're going to define the permissions and privileges to the users based upon the scope. Now, as I told you, I have already created my custom module, which is trainings. So This is completed fully. So if you see here, this is the name of the custom module that I have created, and it is the web tab. So it should be populated beside all other modules that I have. And as you see here, I have the trainings module. Next, we have fields list. Here, I'm going to add additional field with respect to this particular custom module. We have form customizer, which is nothing but the sub form. I'm going to group certain fields together, create them as a form, and associate it to the custom modules. The main enhancement that we have in custom module is that whenever you create an additional field, you have numerous options such as file upload, email, URL, color, and also when you create an additional field using the pick list, this is going to save a lot of manual work, where if I want to bring all the users to be listed in one of the additional field, all I have to do is click on reference entity and choose which entity should I bring into this particular pick list. So when I choose users, all my users in the application will be listed in this particular pick list additional field. I don't have to enter them manually. Instead, I can just use the reference entity feature and bring all the users listed into the pick list. We have sub entity, where I'm going to build the individual entity such as feedback, such as how we have task and work logs. Here in my organization, once after the training is completed, I would like to record the feedback of all particular candidates. By just creating one sub entity, I can associate it to multiple custom modules. We have configurations, where you're going to define the users and based upon the scope and permissions that you're going to provide them. We have field and form rules like how we have for request module, where you can make your template look very dynamic and user interactive. We support all three events of on form load, change, and submit. Using field and form rules, you can set, mandate, write a script as per your choice, and also set a value based upon the value which is chosen in the previous field. Now, let's head to the trainings module and check how I can add an entry here. When I click on new, and by choosing the additional fields entry, and when I click on add, the entry will be added. For me to add multiple entries, I just want to specify the details here so that all the entries will be added in the bottom. And I would like to record on what topic the training is been given. So when it is network, I just want it to be completed within 10 days and not more than that. And also, I don't want my trainers to specify how many days they are going to complete this training. Hence, I have disabled this and also wrote a script to set if the topic is network, it is going to be completed within 10 days. If the topic is going to be software, then it is going to take 15 days. So this dynamic I have made using the fill and form rules, where it is going to be user interactive. So as per the topic that you're going to choose, the training days will be updated. When I click on add, the entry is added. So here I have feedback entity, which I configured using the sub entity. Once after the training is completed, I want my trainers to mention the feedback regards to the all candidates. Here they can just enter the mentor's name, and if you click on the candidate name, I have all the users in my organization listed. Yes, you guessed it right. I made this additional field using the pick list reference entity, and I just choose the users. So all the users in my organization is listed in this pick list. I'm going to record the email, and also I have used the file attachment field, where I'm going to record the video of the last final test that they have provided, which will give me a record to gauge their performance. Now, this is how you can build the custom module in your organization to operate one certain function which is going on within the ServiceDesk Plus console. So this is all about the custom module. Now let's have a quick recap on what we have discussed today. So the first thing was integrating your third-party application with ServiceDesk Plus using the custom widgets and connections. Later, we discussed how PAM 360 integration with ServiceDesk Plus will be very useful when your technicians are accessing the target missions, which is actually critical. Later, we discussed on how the users can now configure backup approver during their unavailability to ensure there is no further delays in the approval process. We discussed how we can configure custom modules and make the templates look very dynamic and user interactive using the fill and form rules, which is available while creating the custom module. So now, Priya, who is the global head for customer success and customer support, will engage the session.
Thank you for that product demo, Swati. And we'll now have our AMA segment. So let me just quickly go over the questions we have received. We have one from Paul. And what I would like to see is the example of connections with basic authentication OAuth 2, and preferably an example of connection to Microsoft Entra. So Priya, is this something we can help Paul with? Over to you.
So yeah, we have met in several events. To answer your question, whether we can use connections for doing an integration between Microsoft Entra, yes, it's possible. So we do have both the mechanism of OAuth and basic authentications.
Thank you, Priya. So Paul, there you go. It is indeed possible. And let me get on with the next set of questions. We have one from Rana, where can we include authentication for PAM?
Yes, it's possible. Again, so exactly like how Swati showed you today on how you can do the integration between PAM 360, you can very well do it for PAM as well. Ideally, it's not shown visibly in the application as PAM 360 configuration, but it's still pretty much doable using the API integrations.
Great. Thank you, Priya. So Paul had another question about the custom modules feature with Entity, whether it's available for requests.
Unfortunately, we don't have that for request at the moment, but yes, we are thinking of bringing the same functionalities as how we have in custom module to be bought in other modules in ServiceDesk Plus.
And so we have one more question from Fabio, where if a user is added in a later time, is it dynamically added to the list in the entity? I think he's referring to the demo shown by Swati.
Yes, it's possible, Fabio. So it's a dynamic list. So whenever a user gets added to the primary user list, it definitely gets referred in the referred entities, like how Swati showed you. So Paul, to answer your question, yeah, we have to capture in our documentation the connections will also support the basic authentication. And right, with the webhooks, currently we support only the basic authentication and not the OAuth. We would soon be doing that in webhooks as well. Hey Rana, to answer your question, PAM does support MFA, but if you ask whether we can use the MFA configuration of PAM in ServiceDesk Plus, right now that is not possible in the application, but you have to be logged in inside the PAM to do the resource section. So ideally, you need a technician login in PAM, have the technician key integrated, and then you will have this resource section accessible in ServiceDesk Plus to do the remote control.
Thank you, Priya. So there you go, Rana. And so we're just going to wait for a few more minutes to receive any additional questions. Remember, folks, we will be answering these questions live, and we have a few more minutes. You can ask us questions about the product, the platform capabilities, and so on.
Paul, to answer your question, whether we would be introducing more features in paid script, that is something which we are still thinking in. What are the other additional paid script options that we can bring in? But if you know, right now, page scripts can be applied across all modules. So earlier it was there only for request module. Now you can have the same configuration across different modules in the application. But if you, I would be more interested to know like what kind of features that you would like to have in paid scripts. That would be really helpful for us. Fabio, I understand that you're very eager to get the entity option in the request module. even me too. But then the development activities for other modules are in progress. So it will take some time for us to do the prototype and then deliver the entity option for the request module. So right now we don't have an ETA that I can commit at the moment.
Hey Rana, thank you for your interest. So PAM 360, our privileged access management application, is dealt with by a different team within Manage Engine. So we'd be very happy to give you a demo. So I'm going to note down this request and I'm going to forward it to our privileged access management team, and they'll be in contact with you to give you a demo based on how you want it and based on your requirements. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, Paul, thank you for sharing your requirement on how we wanted to use Microsoft Clarity in self-service portal to track the user interaction. I'm also thinking of how this custom widget option can also be very helpful for you. So right now, custom widgets can be deployed in the technician homepage and the requester's homepage. So would you think it's going to be useful? The custom widget option would be useful for you? Oh, all right. I get that. I get that, Paul. So I'm going to help you with what you tried in custom widgets. So I'll have Swati from my team to help you on this to see how custom widgets can help you to have the Microsoft Clarity integrated in the self-service portal for you.
Thank you, Priya. So, Paul, there you go. We would have a separate session for you and deal with this requirement from your end. And we have a few more questions, folks. So we're going to address them now. So once again, these are from Rana. For the survey, can it be customized to be just for service request, and it needs to be sent after the fourth request and not for any individual request? So we don't want to bother our end user. So that's the requirement from Rana.
Rana, right now the configurations are meant like either for every request or like after 10 requests you can mention that. But if you wanted to have a separate survey configured for service request, yes, that's possible as well in the survey configurations. Question on for change management for CAB approvals, can we add the third options for a query? Do you mean to say like you wanted to have additional CAB approvals? If you can give me some clarity in the chat, or is that something that you are looking for? Need more clarification in the CAB approval? Is it like approve, reject, and need more clarification? Right, Rana. We have the option to need more clarification in CAB approvals as well. I'm not sure on which version and build number of ServiceDesk Plus you are in, but in the latest version, you have this option for CAB approvals where you can request for more information or need more clarification.
Great. So Rana, the feature you're looking for is right now available in the latest build for ServiceDesk Plus. So I think we've answered all of these questions that you've asked us, but we are happy to have more questions. We still have time on board. So come on, folks, take this opportunity and get your questions answered.
Hey, Pedro, to answer your question on deluge functions for custom menus. A custom menu is ideally where you would like to access a different application right from the request or change. So you can use the deluge option, which is our own scripting language, to do the integration between ServiceDesk Plus and a third-party application, where you can pull in some forms from the third-party application right inside the request page. Let's say, for example, you have an Active Directory management tool in your organization, and you wanted to pull in the form from that third-party tool to do a user onboarding. So such type of forms can be bought in using the deluge functions. Rana, to answer your question of like you want the majority of approvers, once they approve, you want the CAB approval to go through, like how we have in service request approval function. That's something that we are working on. So currently the options what are present in the CAB approval is like the first approval action, or anyone can approve, or everyone should approve, or the options we have right now. But thanks for your requirement.
Thank you, Priya. All right. So Rana, the feature you asked for, it's available in request management, and it's something that we have taken note of your requirement. Yes.
Hey Rana, I'm not very sure whether your question is about the custom widgets that you wanted to configure. So I would love to help you on your requirement. It would be great if you can send us the email and I'll get in touch with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Priya. So Rana, all you have to do is send us an email with your use case and your requirement, and we'll be very happy to look into it and assist you at every step of the way.
Oh, hey Lisa, to answer your question on allowing requester to take actions or viewing the request lifecycle stage, at the moment we don't have this option, but I would also love to know on what scenarios you want the requesters to take action, because we built the request lifecycle to guide the technicians on how the request needs to be transitioned from one phase to the other. So I would love to hear from you on how you want the requesters to work on the request lifecycle actions. Richard, to answer your question on how you can customize the project details section of removing some of the fields in it, right now we don't have a direct out of box option, but then using the paid script option which is present, you can hide those elements from the project details view. Thomas, you can have any sort of widgets apart from Zoom to be integrated. For example, if you wanted to have MS Teams to be integrated, if you wanted to have a calendar to be integrated, yes, you can do it using custom widgets.
Thank you, Priya. So Thomas, yes, the custom widgets feature is very expansive and extensible. Yes, Rana, we've noted down your requirement and your email address as well.
Hey Lisa, I got your requirement now. So a requester, when he wants to close his complaint, whatever he has raised, he can ideally do it from the self-service portal. He can close or cancel the request. But as you mentioned earlier, this transition will affect the request. So the transition of request lifecycle is meant for technicians. So when a requester changes the status of the request to cancel or close, ideally it may get affected, because if there are any additional fields mandated or any fields mandated, the transition may not flow as how you have configured in the request lifecycle. So I clearly understood your requirement. I'm going to take this back to my product management team to see how we can include your requirement in the tool. Begum, to answer your question on having the reference entity for request additional field, we are going to release this feature in the upcoming new release. So we have already developed it. Hi, Richard. To answer your question on saving the reports automatically to a network drive, that's possible right now in the latest version of ServiceDesk Plus. You can save the reports in a network drive. Kamal, can you elaborate your requirement a bit more? Kamal, just to have the clarification, if you're referring to the connection option in ServiceDesk Plus, when you create the connection, you can choose whether it needs to be in basic authentication or in OAuth. So if that's what you're referring to. Hey Kamal, if you're talking about the authentication inside ServiceDesk Plus for the user, it's ideally based on AD authentication or SAML authentication or local authentication. And we also have several security configuration under the admin page to prevent any sort of security related issues happening in the application. But whereas if you're asking about the connection settings where you will be configuring authentication between Service Desk Plus and a third party application, again you have three different types in connection. You can use API, you can use basic authentication, and you can use O authentication. Again, the security configuration, what you have configured in Service Desk Plus, will also be applicable for the connections. Begum, to answer your question, with ChatGPT integration, we have configured according to the credits that you have purchased. However, you have configured your ChatGPT integration for your language, it will work as it is. But whereas when you talk about Zia works with only the languages that we support in Service Desk Plus, like Swedish, Spanish, and English for now. So we are working on supporting other languages in Zia as well. But with ChatGPT, it's according to your configuration that you have in your ChatGPT.
You're welcome, Kamal, and thank you, Priya, for patiently answering all of these questions. What's the best way to integrate with a third-party web application, especially to create tickets based on external fields? And Satish would also like to map the fields.
Satish, I would recommend you to use the APIs, which is currently available in Service Desk Plus, wherein you can map the fields from the third party tool to the request fields that you want. And whenever the form gets submitted in your third party tool, using the REST API, which is available in Service Desk Plus, you can send the data to Service Desk Plus to create a request. And beyond that, if you wanted to perform any kind of automations, like assigning to a technician, or if you wanted to make any other configurations or actions that needs to be performed on the ticket, you can very well use the automations which is present inside Service Desk Plus. So this is one way. The other way is like we also have an option called as Zoho Flow, which is very similar to the options that you would have seen in other tools like Zapier. So through Zoho Flow, you can have connections established between any two applications. Again, you can use REST API or callback functions or webhooks to establish these integrations.
Thank you, Priya. And so we also received a few questions previously from our Pitstop community and other sources. So we can now proceed to answer these questions. So is it possible to use Service Desk Plus for record keeping purposes, which is beyond incident or service requests?
Yes, very well. You can use Service Desk Plus to have any other records beyond incidents and service requests. So let me give you an example. Let's say you need to have an approval mechanism for any of the documents that you're changing. Let me take an example of a banking industry. So in banking, there would be different kind of insurance or terms and conditions that you would like to update and get some approval. Okay. So in those cases, you can create the custom module, which Alan showed you, and have that as a record keeping section to do the approval mechanism. So this is one option. The other one I would suggest is, let's say you have an application owner for different segment of applications in your organization. So you can have this again configured in custom module, and you can use the available custom module records to be referred in incidents or problem or changes as well.
Great, thank you, Priya. And so the next question is about the mailbox. So the mailbox are being set up with an alias, and the mails are being received directly by the accounts, the alias accounts. However, when someone replies from the account, the end user invariably receives it from the primary email address. So is there something we could help out?
Yeah, definitely. ServiceDesk Plus does have an option which is called as the group email address. Okay. So when you configure a support group, you will also be able to configure a specific sender email address for each of the groups. Say for example, I have a network group, I have a hardware group. If you have any dedicated email address to report anything regarding to the network issues or application issues, then you can configure these group email addresses along with the sender information, which is the sender email address. So whenever a request is being sent to that particular group email address, it will be automatically assigned to the group. And when a technician responds to that ticket, it will be sent via the group email address sender email address configuration that you have configured in Service Desk.
What if there are tasks for non-technicians in the onboarding process? For example, you might want the HR person to say they have completed their task, but really they're not technicians in Service Desk. So is there a way we can record the completion of their task? That's the question.
Well, ideally, I would recommend the ESM option, wherein you can have a separate help desk configured for the HR for facilities. Now, let's take an example of the user onboarding. So, whenever a user onboarding takes place, there are different departments in the organization involved to onboard a particular user. So the HR generally starts the onboarding process in some organization, and in some organization, the IT starts the onboarding process. Well, it depends. So how will the HR or the IT know the different kind of the user onboarding is completed so that they can proceed with the other options for user onboarding? So for this, what you're supposed to do is you can configure the enterprise service management instance for HR for facilities. This is one option, and obviously the HR professionals are going to take care of the HR instance and take care of the tasks which are assigned to them. So this is one way. The other option is where you can you can have non-login technicians. By non-login technician, what I mean is you can create technicians with email address and they will not be having a login present. Okay, so whenever a task is being assigned to them, an email notification can be sent to these non-login technician, and once the task has been completed, the non-technicians can drop an email to this notification, which will again get merged into the actual request. So this way, whoever is initiating a user onboarding, they will be able to get a complete picture of the task completion.
Thank you, Priya. And as she suggested, ESM can really be a great option in this case. So, if in case you're unaware, Service Plus extends beyond the scope of IT teams. So, you have HR facilities, and a lot of them can make use of ITSM practices for their work operations.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, said.
exactly, Priya. So, ESM can be great avenue for them. And we also have a dedicated ESM episode that we covered some time ago, so we will share it across as well. And the next question, how can you separate tickets from one service request submission? So for example, you have an onboarding request that includes the hardware section, but then the hardware requests are invariably handled by another team. So you want that part of it to get escalated automatically. So how can we handle this with an alternative workflow to avoid users, making it fill out separate forms?
All right. Again, The same user onboarding, the multiple departments, multiple groups within IT are involved in onboarding the users, and each group will be given a stipulated timeline within which the request has to get completed, so that the user onboarding experience is delivered in a better fashion. So for that, what you're supposed to do is you have an option called as OLA. So within the SLA, so the SLA is configured for the entire ticket, and to have the stipulated time frame within which each department needs to complete their work for user onboarding, you can configure the OLA within the SLA. So this way, what happens is you know which group exceeded the actual OLA time. Let's say the HR starts the user onboarding, and now it gets moved to the IT team. And inside IT, there could be different tasks that needs to be performed, like configuring the Active Directory credentials, giving them access to different applications, uh, providing the laptop. So each a task or each segment of inside the request needs to have this particular time frame configured, which you can do using the organizational level agreement, the OLA. And in the OLA, you can also configure the notifications whenever there is a violation of the SLA or the OLA. So this is one way. The other option is, like, obviously for a user onboarding process, it's a complete workflow on who takes care of different job action, who needs to be notified on whenever a task gets completed or whenever a work item gets completed. So I would also recommend you to use the request lifecycle, where you can configure the complete workflow and the notification sections for them.
Thank you, Priya. And so we have the final question that we got. When adding new assets, do the hardware and software details get added via scanning, or is it necessary to manually enter the asset details to populate the database?
Well, I will never recommend any manual items to be done in ServiceDesk Plus apart from the configuration. Well, as you know, ServiceDesk Plus is the enterprise service management tool, which has the capability of also doing the asset management. So we have the option to do an auto discovery of your entire network, to bring in all the hardware and software which is present inside your organization. Well, there are certain configuration that you need to perform in order to bring the assets inside ServiceDesk Plus, which I think we have done in Masterclass session on how to do the asset discovery.
Yes, Priya. So we had a full-fledged IT asset management masterclass some time back. So we will be compiling all of these questions and share the relevant links and the masterclass episodes so that you can revisit them later on and try them out in your Service Desk Plus instances. And I think that we already have one more question that was added in line. So what is the difference between a service catalog and a custom module? So Priya, so Ambika has asked this question.
Yep. Hi, Ambika. So let me give you an example. So service request is ideally like when a requester wants something from the service team. So that is where you configure the service request. But wherein custom module is something which is not a service request and nor an incident, but you would want it to keep the records inside the Service Desk Plus so that you can use it later on. Like how Alan showed, you can use it for leave tracking, you can use it for application owners, you can keep it for approvals, or you can even have it for, let's take an university. So if you wanted to have a form wherein the students would fill in their new admission forms, so such things can be configured using custom modules. Anything apart from incident and service desk, but you still wanted to maintain in Service Desk Plus, you can use custom module. Well, Ambika, the approval workflow is currently work in progress, and we would be releasing that very soon. That's the next important step that we are taking in custom module. Thank you.
Thank you, Priya. And so, yeah, custom modules are very powerful capability in ServiceDesk Plus. So sometimes our customers have very unique processes, right? And they bring that into ServiceDesk Plus using custom modules. And Priya and her team, have seen a lot of such unique implementations, right, Priya?
Yes, and just think of something like you wanted to maintain service portfolio. Okay, so you can create it using a custom module. Well, let's say like you wanted to have a vendor management system. No? You can very well do it using custom module.
Yep. So the platform is really more and more extensible and is not just restricted to ITSM.
Does backup approver functionality work only for change requests? It's a very good question, I think.
Well, a backup approver can be configured not just for change requests, it can be configured for service requests as well. So any approvals that you have in the application, if you wanted to be directed to the backup approver, it can be configured using the option backup approver in the application.
All right. We also have a few other questions. So Albert Diaz is asking that is it possible to configure a master calendar that all users requesters can view and select a time to schedule a troubleshooting session? So I think there's sort of a calendar type of question that they are asking.
Exactly. So Albert, again, so you can make use of the custom widget functionality. Now, let's say you have Zoho Calendar or Microsoft Calendar that you have and wanted to integrate within ServiceDesk Plus. Well, you can do it using the custom widget functionality. You can either add it as a dashboard or inside the dashboard, or if you wanted to have it as a web tab, you can very well do it using the custom widgets functionality.
Thanks, Priya. The next question is from Jim. So he is asking that they are planning to implement the CMDB. So they want to know if we have a quick path to do this, or there are certain partners that we would recommend who could help them out with the CMDB implementation.
Jim, first of all, when you wanted to have the CMDB uh, implemented in ServiceDesk Plus, there are few prerequisites that you need to do at your end, like discussing on what are the most business critical services or business critical achievements or configuration items that you wanted to build the CMDB relationships with. Once that's been taken care, you can configure the relationship in a Excel sheet. For example, I have an email server, and this email server is hosted in one of our data center, and this email server is connected to a switch, to a router. These informations can be collected in an Excel sheet, and it can be imported in one shot. So we also have our previous masterclass sessions wherein we have talked about how you can implement CMDB in ServiceDesk Plus. We can share those videos to you, and we can also introduce you to some of the partners who can help you implement CMDB.
Thank you, Priya. So the next question is, so Stephen is telling that they're not able to see the custom module, and they're asking if it is a part of a different feature of ServiceDesk Plus. I think this is related to their application.
Stephen, custom module option is available in the enterprise edition of ServiceDesk Plus. So we haven't introduced a custom module as an add-on for standard or professional edition. We're still thinking about that. But right now, if you wanted to make use of custom module, it is available in the enterprise edition of ServiceDesk Plus.
Thanks, Priya. So Tahir is asking if it is possible to export a custom report with the technician's work log and the total time the request was on a specific status. So, for example, in the progress status or a specific status. So I think there's a very very specific requirement that he's interesting requirement that he's asking.
Hey Tahir, yes, it is pretty much possible. So we have our inbuilt custom report module wherein you can use the time spent report, or you can choose the time spent module, select the fields, whatever you need, and then you can export it.
Thanks, Priya. Next, Dave has another question. So he is asking that he would like to know more about specific question where they are going to be required to implement a CMDB. Okay, so this they've already asked us. And Juan has another question. So,
Mhm.
as a client organization, do we have some kind of consulting support from us, from ServiceDesk Plus? And if Juan and their team have any questions or need some consultation, how do they reach out to us? I think this is related to the product support, I think the question.
Very well, Juan. We would be more than happy to help you with a consultation. So I can get your email address and then we can schedule a 1 hour consultation with you. Definitely, yes.
Dave is asking that they would like to know more details on the implementation of CMDB. Um, I I think they would want to maybe schedule a one-on-one call, I guess.
Well, we can definitely do that for you, Dave. So we can collect your email address and then again we can schedule a 1 hour session to explain you on how you can set up the CMDB. And if you want us to do the implementation or if you want our partners to do the implementation, well, we will be more than happy to help you on that.
Thanks, Priya. Next, we have a question from Arjun. At Konak Software, they have implemented a few custom scripts for their clients, but they're requesting for more documentation on the syntax and script and how it would be beneficial for them to, sort of self-service on their own. So I think this is more about Deluge and the scripting.
Yes. So, Arjun, what I would recommend you is in Pitstop, so you can log into pitstop.manageengine.com and choose ServiceDesk Plus. You will see various modules in it, and you can choose the customization or the custom script module, where we have published many custom scripts that we have given to our customers. So if you look into those scripts, you will have a fair idea of the syntaxes as well as on how these scripts are being composed. Okay, so this is one thing. With regards to the documentation part, yes, we are also working on bringing in sample scripts inside the documentation itself, which will help the users to develop their own scripts. So that's again work in progress.
Awesome. Actually, even I've been thinking of learning to do a little bit of Deluge scripting myself. So I'm surely going to go and check that out in the pit stop as well. Thanks a lot, Priya. So the next question is from Alan. So Alan is asking that, is there a way to build out a contract approval process? So basically build templates that capture different details about a contract, submit the request for review, the approvals, and then once the approvals are given out and the request is closed, they would also want to move it to the contract module.
Well, you can use the request lifecycle option to begin with for the contract approval process. And we are also having the APIs for contract right now. So you can use the contract API through which you can add the new contracts. Okay. So pretty much possible with some options where we need to have the custom scripts developed. Except that part, you can have the other approval functionalities and review functionalities can be captured using the request lifecycle functionality.
Next, we have a question from Connie. Is there a way to change multiple incident template at one time? So they've given an example that they've added a required field to gather data, but do not need it to be required or need it to be removed completely.
Well, I guess this is a usability related question. So I understand how it could be complicated when you wanted to make changes to multiple incident templates. Well, we are bringing in a new capability of the additional fields. So we are going to club the additional fields as request additional fields, wherein you can have these additional fields across incident or service requests. So today we have set of additional fields, common additional fields. You have something like request additional fields, service request additional fields, which is a little bit tough to manage. But in the upcoming feature where you have a common additional fields irrespective of request or service request, if you make change to a particular additional field, it will be manipulated on the incidents where you have these additional fields configured.
Thanks, Priya. And just as Connie has asked regarding the additional fields, Sean has come up with another question. So he's asking if it is possible to add additional fields into the drill down analysis function.
Well, I get your requirement, Sean. Right now, it's not possible, but I'll take this as a feedback and give it to my product management team.
Thanks, Priya. Connie has another question. Is there a way to make resolution not required based on the incident template? So apparently they have seen something on the pitch stop, but they're unable to recall it right now.
Yeah. Well, Connie, so is there a particular scenario where you don't want it to have resolution to be added for an incident? Okay. So I would love to know that. But then, if you don't want a resolution to be mandated for a particular template, well, you cannot do it in a straightaway option because if you have request closing rules configured to have resolution, then it will be applied for all sort of incidents and service requests irrespective of the template. Well, I'm just still thinking of an option where we could do it using the custom scripts, but I need to check this if it is possible with our development team, and then I'll have to get back to you on it, Connie. So I'll respond back to you. I'll get your email address.
Thanks, Priya. So Arjun has asked us more questions. So they're talking about that they know about the pitch stop. I think they sort of prefer reaching out to us, to our support, as opposed to publishing a solution or checking out solutions that are already available. So I think this is more about what is currently available on our pitch stop.
Yeah. Well, we are actually reworking on the materials that's been published in the pitch stop, the knowledge base articles. We are, as Arjun said, few of the articles that we have published is a little bit older, but we are also publishing the documents with the new delete script that we have configured for the same requirements. So users can make use of it, but if you find it a little bit difficult, obviously the support is there to help you. And we're also, like I said before, we are also working on revamping our documentation for custom scripts and Deluge so that people can make use of it and develop their own custom scripts.
Thanks, Priya. And Arjun also is talking about the additional fields and the common fields across incident and service requests. I think that talking about the limitations on the number of additional fields they can have. Um,
Well,
yeah,
we have right now the additional fields is a little bit restricted, as you all know. So we have somewhere around uh, 98 fields, but in the latest version that we are going to release, we'll have around 500 additional fields for incidents and service requests together if you're using the PGSQL database. And we'll be giving 1,000 additional fields if you're using MSSQL database.
thanks, Priya. Caesar has a question. So they say that they have the enterprise edition of ServiceDesk Plus Cloud with 8,000 asset licenses. So they've also installed Endpoint Central and integrated with the same installation directory of ServiceDesk Plus, and they want to know up to how many assets can they scan in ServiceDesk Plus using Endpoint Central 11, and the Endpoint Central edition that they are using is the free version. So with the 8,000 assets available, asset licenses available in ServiceDesk Plus Enterprise Edition, and the free version of Endpoint Central, how many assets can they scan and take repository of?
Lara, that's a good question. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the Endpoint Central at all. Okay, so if you have purchased 8,000 license for SDP, then which means you're allowed to scan 8,000 machines. Okay, so Endpoint Central Free Edition will allow you to do these 8,000 machines scanning. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to buy any extra license in Endpoint Central to do the scanning.
We have another, I think it looks like a feature request from Alan. So is saying that a great feature to have would be to be able to have a way to identify all additional fields and to which templates they are all connected to. So right now, there's no way to know which makes deleting unused fields impossible, or see where they are all shared and across which templates they're all being used. So I think there's more about a single repository and sort of connection to where all they're being used.
Alan, well said. I agree with you. Right now, the additional fields, we don't know like where it is being referred to, which template it's being referred to. And if you wanted to make any changes to the additional field, of course, you will not be able to do an impact analysis unless you get a query report from us. But we wanted to do something very similar to your requirement on show like where these additional fields are used. You know? So I'm going to take this up again to the product management team and share your feedback to them. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Priya. We'll have the floor open for another 5 minutes, so you can continue asking your questions. And meanwhile, we'll also, Priya can also answer the questions that we received from the pit stop. So the first question was, is it possible to use ServiceDesk Plus for record keeping purposes beyond the incident or the service request module?
Well, 100% it is possible to use ServiceDesk Plus not just for incidents and service requests. With the custom module option that which we have released, you can make use of ServiceDesk Plus for any functionality beyond incident or service request. Now, let's say, for example, you wanted to do a risk assessment, or you wanted to do a vendor management, or you wanted to do a service portfolio or service strategy planning. You can use custom module to create your own custom fields. You can have the automations on top of the custom modules like business rules, custom triggers Just like how Gayatri showed you on how she designed the custom module for cab booking, in a similar fashion, you can use custom modules beyond the incident and service request.
Thanks, Priya. So I think the custom module has a lot of capabilities, and I think like as a user, we can make quite a lot of use out of this particular feature. Um, so the next question that we have here is that the mailbox has been set up with a particular alias, and the mails are being received correctly by the alias accounts. However, when replying from a particular account, the requester receives it from the primary email ID instead of the specified alias ID.
Well, this is a small configuration that you can do in ServiceDesk Plus. We have this option called as support group. When you configure a support group, you can specify the group email address and you can also specify the sender email address. Once you configure that, whenever a request is sent to the group email address, it will automatically be assigned to that group. You don't even need a business rule to be configured. When a technician responds to that particular ticket, it will use the sender email address that you have configured for that particular group. So this way you can segregate and show to the user from which email address they are getting the response from. I believe the user may not know whether it's a single help desk or multiple help desk.
All right. Alan has a question. So they're asking if there are or will there be any in-depth training or videos or a particular documentation on the use case and the setup for custom modules.
Yes, we do have documentation on custom module on how to configure custom modules in our admin guide. We'll also be launching some quick videos on how custom modules can be configured inside the product or using the Masterclass series as well.
Thanks, Priya. We are sort of running short on time. I think this last one question we can take up and then we can end the session. Actually, Cesar has a question. So they're asking if it is possible to specify specific user groups to be able to user or support groups to be able to see solutions posted in Services Plus. For example, specific solutions for sysadmins can only be seen by a particular sysadmin group, and solution and particular solution for, let's say, the net admin can only be seen by the net admin group. So I think this is more about restricting certain the knowledge articles to certain support groups.
Well, Caesar, this is exactly what we are working on. This is going to be like an enhancement on the solution module. So right now we have user groups. You can restrict solutions for user groups. But whereas for technician, all technicians can view all the solution. That's how the application is being designed at the moment. But we are reworking on this. So we also wanted to have technician groups and have the restrictions of solutions based on the technician group. That's a feature enhancement that we're working on.
How do we configure a reminder to be sent to for a certain approval?
To answer Michael's question on how to configure reminders for approvals, we have an option in ServiceDesk Plus under the admin application or advanced portal settings where you can configure the approval reminders. I can just quickly show you the option. So here, if you go under the admin section, you have the advanced portal settings, approvals tab, and then you can configure the approval reminders.
Yeah, so I think the next question is from Michael again. So they're asking, how does one set a reminder to be sent to a particular technician if they are yet to attend a request? So I think this is about sort of nudging your technician towards, taking up the particular request, I think.
Well, that's a good question again. Michael, I can give you some options Let's say you have configured group for your requests. In groups, you have a group notification wherein you can send notification to certain technicians when the request is unpicked in the group. So to configure that, again, you can go inside the admin section, support groups, and then you have the option to configure the support group notification whenever the request inside the group is left unpicked. You can send notifications. Okay, so this is the best option. But there is also another option called as request timer, wherein you can configure the timer action to send specific notification at particular time. Say, for example, if the requester did not, if the request is not attended by the technician for a stipulated time, you can use request timer action as well to send notification. So let me quickly show you how you can do that. You can configure the request timer action. You can set the criteria, and based on the user defined time or based on the date field duration, like due by time or responded or resolved time, you can configure notifications to be sent.
Thanks, Priya. So the next question is from Miguel. So Miguel is asking, how can a manager receive an email notification every time one of their staff submits a ticket?
All right, Mikkel, the best option is to use the email ID to CC. So when a requester is raising a request, you have an option called as email ID to CC. So using that option, the requester can key in their managers or their reporting to email address, and this will notify the manager. This is one option. You can also have a custom script to pre-populate the email IDs to notify automatically when a requester raises an incident or a service request.
Thanks, Priya. Next, we have a question from Peter. So Peter is saying that they want to create some service requests that are only available for a group of managers to be able to submit in their organization. So they want to see how this can be done. And it looks like they've already gone over the user groups feature as well. So, yeah.
Right, in user groups, you have the option called as job title. Okay, so when you create a user, you have the job title option. So if you have configured the job title of the users in Active Directory, so when you import the users from Active Directory, the job title will also be imported. So you can choose the job title as managers or team leads, and accordingly you can configure this user group, and you can set this user group in the template that you are configuring.
Thanks, Priya. Next, we have a question from Edgar. So Edgar has a question regarding the Zoom widget that Swati showed us during the feature roundup session. So they're asking which Zoom account does ServiceDesk Plus use, and do they need to create a generic Zoom account that would then be used by ServiceDesk Plus, or is there any specific prerequisite or a specific condition that they would need to keep in mind?
Edgar, basically what this integration does is you use an integration key between ServiceDesk Plus and Zoom to create these sessions inside the Zoom using the ServiceDesk Plus widget. So ideally, it's going to be one technician, or like how you said, it's going to be a common Zoom account.
Thanks, Priya. I think there's another question from Edgar. So I think this is about technicians working on specific incidents or service requests that contain particular tasks. So I think Edgar has already gone over the training and maybe the masterclass videos on how to configure tasks. But they want to know how technicians would be able to process incidents or requests with tasks. And is there a way that we can demonstrate it right now?
Well, so when a request comes in, you can have several tasks along with that particular request. Now, let's say when you have a user onboarding request coming in, there could be several tasks like configuring the user's laptop, creating an Active Directory account, giving access to different applications. So these are all different tasks which will be handled by different support groups or by different technicians. Right? The first thing, if I'm a technician, as soon as I log in into ServiceDesk Plus, I would like to know the tasks and the requests that I'm working in. So we have this combined view which shows all my tasks as well as the requests that I'm supposed to work on. So you can click on the task, look for the information that needs to be performed on the task, and work on it and do the closure of the task. So when you close the task, there can also be a dependent task. So you can configure task dependencies when you create the tasks inside the template or inside the request. So the dependent task will also get triggered the moment you close your own tasks. So this is the best way of how you can handle the tasks.
Thanks, Priya. And Michael has asked if about the recording for this session. So just wanted to let everyone know that yes, we are recording this session, and we will be sending out the recording to all the attendees in a couple of days. So don't worry about that. So Marie has a question about custom fields. So Marie wants to know how can they see the custom field that they have created when adding it to a particular template that's already existing, and some have a green dot next to them, and how do they enable that? So I think this is an interesting request that they've come up with.
Right, Marie. So in the admin section, you have the option called as request additional fields. So in the request additional fields option, you can see all the additional fields that you have configured or added through the incident template or through service templates. So you have it for specific module, whatever additional fields that you have created, you can see over here. I'm really sorry. I didn't get what you mean by this particular green dot. But the green dot, what you see in this particular page refers to it as a common field which is applicable for both incident and service request. So these are all common pick list. That's why it shows the green icon next to that.
Thanks, Priya. Next, Cody is asking if we do these AMA sessions often. So currently we have these AMA sessions once in a year, but we do have module-wise masterclass sessions across the year. So we've had 9 episodes where we spoke about certain very specific modules and capabilities in ServiceDesk Plus. And during those sessions, if you have any questions or any feedback, the customers always keep asking us, and we try our best to answer all of them. And if you also have any specific request or a specific requirement, you can always, as Priya and their team are always available to help out with any such requirements as well.
Edgar, to answer your question, like, do you have the single technician own the incident and service request, even though the tasks are assigned to different technicians? Yes, that's the right procedure. Sometimes you may configure the template and the task, and you can configure the automation in such a way, if all the tasks in the request gets closed, you can close the tasks automatically as well. So this is also an option, but ideally the request must be owned by a technician. That's the best practice.
Um, Thanks, Priya. Michael is asking regarding the certificate. Hi, Michael. So after in a couple of days, we'll send out all the certificates. So do be a little patient with us. We'll get that to you soon. Uh, Edgar also has another question. So Edgar is asking, when a task is added to a request, does ServiceDesk Plus email the technician or group to whom the task has been assigned? So regarding the last question that they had asked.
Edgar, yes, very well. Service Desk Plus has the capability to send notification to the technician or a group when the task has been assigned. So you have this option under admin notification rules. You can configure the notifications that you want for tasks. Okay, so you can have this notifications configured.
Thanks, Priya. So we had a few questions from the Pitch Stop forum post as well. So we'll quickly go over those as well, and Priya will be answering them for you. So the first question is it possible to use Service Desk Plus for record keeping purposes beyond just the incident and service management modules?
Yes, of course. The best option for you is the custom module, like how you saw Swati demonstrating on using Service Desk Plus custom module for training purposes. You can use custom modules for any extensions. Say for example, you wanted to do a vendor management, you wanted to do a risk assessment, or whether you wanted to do a service portfolio management. You can extensively use custom modules and options underneath the custom modules to perform different operations and extensions.
Thanks, Priya. The next question that we received in the forum post was that uh, the mailbox has been set up with a particular alias, and the mails are being received correctly by the alias account. However, when replying from the particular account, the requester is always receiving it from the primary email ID instead of the specified alias ID.
The best way to accomplish this requirement is to configure the group email address and the group sender email address. So when you configure the group under the admin section, so you will have this option to configure the group email addresses over here. Now, group email address and group sender email address. Once this is configured, whenever an email is sent to the group email, automatically the request gets created and assigned to this group email. And when technician responds to that particular email, it goes via the sender email address, whatever you have configured. So this way, the end user will not know whether it is all coming from the same help desk. You will show to the requester that it comes from different help desks.
Thanks, Priya. There was another question. So that was, what if there are tasks for non-technicians in the onboarding process? So I already know this is going to be an interesting question. So, for example, we want the HR personnel to say that they have completed their tasks, but currently they're not technicians. So, is there a way for them to be able to record the completion of their tasks?
Yes, possible. First thing is you have to add these HR professionals or persons as technicians in Service Desk Plus so that they can be assigned to the HR oriented tasks and the HR can work on the task and close the task. So this is one way, but ideally the best practice is you can create a separate Service Desk Plus instance for HR, and all the tasks or requests related to HR can be handled in the HR help desk instance rather than having everything inside the IT help desk. So that's the best way or the best approach to handle these kind of tasks. So you can configure the ESM portal. You can go inside the ServiceDesk Plus. You have ESM directory. You can configure different kind of ServiceDesk Plus instances. And once these instances are configured, the end users will see different portals. They can log in and create requests. Now, if I'm a technician for an HR, I can just log into the HR portal. I can see the tasks which are assigned to me and the tickets that I need to work. So this way you have a proper work alignment and streamlining inside your organization.
Thanks, Priya. We have a couple of questions coming in live in our session right now. So Cody has asked another question. So they want to know if there is a plan to allow on-premise services plus implementation to have a test or a development environment sometime soon. So uh, there is an option for a free version, but they would want to test these changes before implementing them in the production environment.
Well, Cody, that's a good question that you have asked. Some customers of us also had the same confusion. By default, the license what you have purchased for ServiceDesk Plus can be allowed for one test or development environment. So you can use the same license for production and for one test or development environment, which you can use for testing purpose. You can do an upgrade in the test setup, do the testing of the features, the new features release, and then you can do a production upgrade.
Thanks, Priya. Next, Marie has another question. So, is there a way to create one ticket that would periodically send a reminder to technicians to perform a recurring task? So, for example, if they need to clean a widget once a month, they would like to create a ticket automatically and inform the technicians to perform those tasks. So, yeah.
Yes, Maria, this is possible. So we have a module called as maintenance module. So inside the maintenance module, you can create the maintenance request, which can be scheduled to be triggered every month or daily, like that. So it can be an incident or it can also be a service request. You can create and you can do the scheduling of the tasks as well. So just wanted to show you, and then you can schedule it. If you wanted to do it once, monthly, weekly, or yearly, you can choose it.
Thanks, Priya. So Peter is following up on their earlier question. So a majority of the managers and supervisors don't have specific wording in their job titles in the Active Directory. So they're asking if there are any plans to expand the allowed criteria for in the user groups, or allowing functions to be placed on a particular field that is being imported from the Active Directory.
Yes, Peter. So we would be taking your requirement to the product management team. Well, some of our other customers have also asked a similar requirement like yours. That's something which a product management team is working on. But as a workaround, I can suggest you to use the user option inside the user group. The criteria, you can select the requester's name. I know that's a little bit tedious, but then you can still use it as a workaround.
Thanks, Priya. Mari is asking a really interesting question. So she's asking if that they're currently using the on-premises version, but if they were to switch to the cloud version of ServiceDesk Plus, would they lose the customized templates, reports, and so on that they've created for their own organization?
Well, Murray, we have an migration which is possible between OP to OD. But when you talk about customizations like templates, there are things which can be automatically migrated and within the template, and there are certain things which cannot be migrated. Okay? Of course, reports cannot be migrated. You have to create the reports once again. Templates and configurations, things like business rules or SLAs that you've configured is pretty much possible to be migrated from on-premises to the cloud.
Thanks, Priya. Miguel has a question. So Miguel is asking, how can a technician view the end user portal to submit a request?
Well, a technician, if they wanted to submit a request, then the best option is you can have the customized technician page over here in the request section or the summary section. You can configure this technician page to include some of the templates. But right now, the technician cannot have a very similar page as that of a requester. So they can have the widgets, you can include the service catalog or incident, which by default would come under this particular summary page, like this.
So Peter has, I think, is sort of continuing with the question that they had earlier asked about that their managers didn't have specific wordings in their job title. So I think so they're saying that in conjunction with the additional criteria that can be used in user groups, could they create a group that does specifically identify the managers based on a particular field that they import from the Active Directory?
Well, Peter, as of now, the option that you've asked for is not possible, but then I can give this as a suggestion to our product management team.
We'll have the question floor open for some more time. You can feel free to ask, drop in your questions. So they need not be related to just the features that we discussed today. It can be related to the product, the support, and so on.
Well, Edgar, I wanted to answer your question regarding the reply template. Well, that's a kind of a requirement and an issue which some of the users reported. So when you choose a reply template, the conversation or the description beneath the request actually vanishes off. So this is something which we have reported to our engineering team, and they are looking into the options of where you can have the configurations set up in such a manner the reply template does not erase the description or the conversation of the request.
Thank you, Priya. And my apologies, Edgar. I sort of missed your question. So we had a couple more questions from the Pit Stop Forum post that we had. So one of the questions was, how can you separate tickets from one service request submission? So for example, if we have an onboarding request that includes a hardware section, but the particular hardware requests are being handled by a different team, and they want that part of the request to be escalated automatically to their team. So is there any alternative way of using a workflow or some other feature to avoid making users fill out various forms and instead just have all of this done in just a one particular request that they raise?
Well, what I would suggest is when you create the service request, you have the resource question section to add the questions that you would like to ask the end user to provide the service. So when you provide a service, it is not that it's just one person's work. There could be different teams or there could be different technicians involved in providing that particular service. So my recommendation is you can create tasks within the service request and you can allocate this task to different technicians or to different support groups. So this way the work is also delegated and the service delivery efficiency is also improvised.
Thanks, Priya. And I think we have one final question from the pit stop post. So, when adding new assets, do the hardware and software asset details get directly added by the scanning process, or is it necessary for someone to manually enter these details into the ServiceDesk Plus instance?
Well, when you do an asset inventory, ServiceDesk Plus is capable of fetching the hardware and software detail of an asset. You don't have to manually enter any of the asset details. All that you have to do is you have to configure the network discovery option in the ServiceDesk Plus, which will do a complete discovery of your network, which brings in your devices like workstations, servers, printers, your routers, along with the hardware and the software informations. This is one method. The other method is if you have a different monitoring tool or an endpoint management tool in your environment like SCCM or SolarWinds, you can integrate ServiceDesk Plus with these applications to bring in the asset informations along with the hardware and the software details.
Thanks, Priya. So Timothy has asked a question. So apparently this was there in the pit stop portal, but uh, we were unable to see this. So the question is that in requests, after one selects the requester, there is specific information particular to the user. So how can someone adjust what information regarding the requester is shown without clicking the more button? So they would also like to use specific created values as well as the system generated values.
Okay, so Timothy, to answer your question, right now we don't have a straightforward customization to show what information of the requesters can be displayed inside the request details section. However, we are working on the request details page customization itself, where you can set which information about the requesters you wanted to display to technicians, not just technician, but you can also choose other technician role. No, for example, if I'm a service delivery manager, I wanted to see more information about the requester. But if I'm an L1 technician or a help desk technician, you don't have to show all the information about the requester. So such type of customization is something our engineering team is working on currently.
Thanks, Priya. Um, Marie also is mentioning that she's self-taught on Services Plus. So she is asking where she could get further training on creating tasks and other modules or other topics in the Services Plus application.
Well, Murray, so we had a detailed masterclass session talking about this task, service request management. We can share you that particular training session. You can have a look into it. And if you have more questions, we would be happy to answer it. You can drop an email to support@servicedeskplus.com. We can have a call and discuss about your questions.
Thank you all of the beautiful folks who asked us all of these questions. I hope we were able to answer most of your questions. For some of your questions, we will be getting back to you at a later stage, and some of you had unique requirements, so please drop in an email detailing your use cases and requirements, and be very happy to help you out. So this brings us to the end of the final episode for the 2024 ServiceDesk Plus Masterclass series. So we would be starting off with a brand new season next year. So until then, it's goodbye from Team ServiceDesk Plus. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, and we'll meet you next year.